Whenever we talk about literature, names of Russian classics and English authors dominate the conversation. But I think some of the most complex, layered, and emotionally powerful stories were written centuries ago right here in India. From political strategy and war ethics to love, betrayal, and morally grey characters, Indian epics and folk tales had everything. And yet, we rarely approach them like we do global classics. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Samira Lasya and today we are going to talk about some great Indian storytelling. I have always been fascinated by Indian epics, not just because of the scale, but also because of the depth. And how we are told that these are not just stories or scriptures, but a part of our history. Take Mahabharata for example. It's not just a story about war. It's about dharma, power, family, revenge, and impossible life choices. And a part of that, the Bhagavad Gita covers everything under the sun and is often consulted by the notable scientists and teachers and philosophers and even the atheists. Or the Ramayana, which beyond its surface of good versus evil is about duty, sacrifice, and a cost of righteousness. And above all, it's a story of love and trust. Now, although I don't think one can ever be bored of reading and rereading these stories, if you want to look at them in a fresh perspective or want a different way to experience them, I have a few suggestions. I think we've all heard of Chitra Banerjee. She is one of the best in the business. Most of her work is mainly stories that we already know of, but in the female lead's perspective. Like one of my favorites are Palace of Illusions and Forest of Enchantments, where she writes Ramayana and Mahabharata in the female lead's perspective. What stands out about her writing is that she does not try to retell the entire epic in a grand way. Rather, she narrows it down. You are mostly inside the character's head. How are they thinking? What are they thinking? And why are they behaving specifically the way they do? So if you like something slow and emotional and character focused, this is where you should start. Another legend in the same section is Kavita Kani. One of my favorites are Karna's wife and Lanka's princess. Her approach is very simple. She picks characters that were never in the spotlight and builds story around them. So instead of changing the story, she changes who's telling it. And that automatically changes the entire purpose of the story. Now if you want something more plot driven and a little far away from the stories that we often talk about, pick up Amish Tripathi's Shiva trilogy. This series treats mythology almost like historical fiction or even, dare I say, fantasy. Here, Shiva is not introduced as a god. He is written as a person who grows into that role. It's faster, more structured, and has strong focus on world building and politics. So this works well if you like mythology, but in a more accessible way and almost a cinematic format. You will truly love it. On the other hand, The Hidden Hindu by Akshat Gupta has very different pacing. It's built like a thriller, has short chapters, constant reveals, and a strong sense of mystery. The story moves between timelines and gradually connects with the present day. If you are someone who enjoys slow, heavy reads, this is an interesting book to get into. And then there is the Kalki trilogy by Kevin Missal. This one is notably darker. It takes the idea of Kalki and removes the idealism. You're looking at a character that is flawed, angry, and constantly conflicted. The writing is very direct, action heavy, and less philosophical compared to others. So if you enjoy intense, morally grey characters, this one will be your next favorite. Moving slightly away from the realm of the mythology, Samsara by Saksham Garg feels more like a fantasy than a retelling. It builds on its own world, but uses ideas like reincarnation and identity as the base. What's interesting here is the concept, not a specific epic. It's less about a familiar character from a story that we already know about, and more about exploring philosophical idea through the story. Somewhere in the same realm, we have Arjuna, the greatest lover. What's interesting here is that instead of focusing on Arjuna as a warrior, it looks at him through his relationships, his love stories. That shift actually makes the character less symbolic and more human. this is a much niche take, but it's much interesting if you already know the original stories. Moving slightly away from the mythology and entering the historical fiction, history, and folklore. First up is Rebel Sultans. This is straight up history, but it doesn't feel dense or academic. It focuses on the Deccan region and the power struggles between the sultanates. And the way it is written, it almost feels like a political drama. You see ambition, betrayal, political alliances. It reminded me that real history often has same intensity as fiction. And then there is Chamin, which feels totally in a complete different tone. It is set in a coastal fishing region in Kerala, and it is built around local beliefs, especially the idea that sea is almost sacred and that the personal actions can affect fate. But at its core, it's a love story, which is layered with folklore, social norms, and a very strong sense of place. So it's quieter, rooted, but emotionally very powerful. And then we have something like Cow and Company. This is much more modern. It is satirical and it uses a lot of humor and slightly absurd premise to comment on society, politics, and cultural sensitivities. It has a lot of graphic representations as well, so it feels much more connectable. These are some books that are quite popular and easily accessible and lovable. And if you have read any of these books, do let me know how you feel about them. Lastly, if you enjoy content around books and storytelling, I think it's about time that you hit that subscribe button on my channel. That's it from my side. Okay, bye. See you later. That's it from my side. See you later. Okay, bye. And that's it from my side. And that's it today. That's all today. That's it today from my side. That's it from my side. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, bye.